We're getting some news that's breaking this minute. The first visuals, they're coming in of the new army chief taking charge, Lieutenant General Naravane, who has taken over as the new army chief. Lieutenant General Manoj Mukund Naravane has taken over as the chief of army staff. He has, of course, succeeded General Bipin Rawat, who's been appointed as India's first chief of defense staff. These are, of course, visuals coming in at this point. Lieutenant General Naravane is currently serving as the vice chief of the army. He has now taken over as the new army chief, succeeding General Bipin Rawat. Now, we're given to understand in his 37 years of service, Lieutenant General Naravane has served in numerous command and staff appointed in peace, field and highly active counter-insurgency environments in Jammu and Kashmir and also in the northeast. He has in fact also commanded a Rashtriya Rifles battalion in Jammu and Kashmir and an infantry brigade on the eastern front. In fact, he has also taken part of the Indian peacekeeping force in Sri Lanka and has served as India's defense attaché at the Indian embassy in Myanmar for these 3 years. So, Lieutenant General Naravane is in fact an alumnus of the National Defence Academy and the Indian Military Academy. He was in fact commissioned into the 7th Battalion, the Sikh Light Infantry Regiment in June 1980. He is in fact a decorated officer who has been awarded the Sena Medal for extensively commanding the battalion in Jammu and Kashmir. Along with many feathers in Lieutenant Naravane's cap, he is also the recipient of the Vishisht Seva Medal for his services as the Inspector General Assam Rifles North and Nagaland and the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal for commanding of a prestigious strike corps. Right, remember, these are, of course, visuals coming in at this point of the new army chief who has now taken over. This is, of course, Lieutenant General Mukund Naravane, who is now becoming the new army chief after General Bipin Rawat finished his 3-year term. He has now become the first chief of defense staff. Let's quickly tell you about a bit of the background about the new army chief who has now taken over. Lieutenant General Mukund Naravane was in fact, before taking charge, he was the vice chief of the army staff in September. Lieutenant General Naravane was in fact heading the Eastern Command of the army, which takes care of India's nearly 4,000-kilometer border with China. Let me go across to our managing editor Vinay Tiwari, who is joining us on this broadcast. Vinay, good afternoon. This is, of course, visuals coming in at this point. General Naravane has now taken over as the new army chief.
Yes, and I think he's taken over the chief at a time when the India's security apparatus has undergone a dramatic change with the appointment of a CDS. Remember that there was a change that had happened quite some time back in the internal security apparatus when Mr. Vajpayee first appointed Brijesh Mishra as the National Security Advisor. So while the internal security establishment had been taken care of, it was the external security apparatus which had not happened, even though the Kargil committee had recommended the appointment of a CDS to ensure better coordination. So General Naravane's appointment in that sense is pretty crucial. He will have to work with the outgoing General Bipin Rawat, who's the new CDS, very closely. And in many ways, the relationship that the three services, including General Naravane, that now shares with Bipin Rawat, will pretty much determine and decide what kind of external security environment and the preparedness that is being talked about will go forward. So very critical appointment, and when there's been a dramatic change in the way India's external security is being handled by the government.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, Vinay. Many thanks for joining us with those perspectives.